So I was gonna wait a little while longer to do this video, but I just wanna get it over with. So this video, I guess I should start off with a trigger warning. It's gonna be fairly graphic, and it's gonna be rough for me. This is gonna be a rough one. Typically I don't have any issues talking about what happened to me, but on a typical time that I'm talking about it, I'm not going into so much depth, and this is gonna be rough. And I figure I might as well just go through it all of it, just one go, and get it done and over with. At least the majority of it, for sure. So I'll start with August 7th was when I finally entered the Navy. Went to Great Lakes, Illinois for boot camp, and stayed up there after boot camp for my A school, for Gunnersmate. After I got through some of the school, went home for a visit, went out, and finally got to my first duty station. And they weren't even expecting me. They weren't even expecting me to show up yet. I mean, like, they knew I was coming at some point, but they weren't expecting me then. And there was no one waiting for me at the airport. There was no call, no nothing. I tried calling the base, but this was in the evening when I got there, so there was really no one I could get a hold of. I didn't have any contact information for anyone on the ship. All I knew is that they were stationed, or supposed to be stationed, out in Norfolk, Virginia, at the naval base. And so I had to stay in a hotel the night before, or at that night, I mean. And the next morning I call the base up, trying to find out where the ship is. They're looking for it. They tell me that it's not even in their on the base. It's not even in their docks. They didn't even know where the ship was at that time. And someone finally found it. Said that they're at the shipping yard out next to the canal, next to downtown Norfolk. And I finally get a number to call someone. They pick up. I tell them what's going on, that I'm here, and how do I get to them, all this. And they get me a ride out to where they were, tell me the situation, that they weren't even expecting me, that they didn't even know that I was coming yet. I mean, like I said, they knew I was coming, they just didn't know that I was coming then. So they did all kinds of admin work. I met the command master chief, I believe I went down into medical to meet Doc and all of them. Just met quite a bit of the people there that I was going to be seeing for the next couple of days for admin stuff. And then they sent me to the main base to complete more admin work. And then after that, they sent me to Little Creek base, where everyone was sleeping, basically. That's where we're all, because we couldn't sleep on the ship. It was in the shipping yard, getting upgrades and repairs and all kinds of maintenance stuff done, because they were getting ready to travel from Norfolk and changing their station, their main base to San Diego. When I heard that, I got excited. I get to go to San Diego. I was looking forward to it. And the next day, they had the shuttle, the morning shuttle, to take to the shipping yard to get on the ship. Went there. It was in the barge. Had to go down into the barge to meet up for muster, morning muster. While I was there, they told me, all right, since you're here, go ahead and go upstairs to the mess hall and eat your breakfast, get some food in you. So I went upstairs and was waiting in line, saw the food. I ordered an omelet and went through the line, got my silverware, my drink, everything. I turn around and I look at the entire mess hall, looking for a place to sit down. And it was cafeteria style, so you had the table with seats on each side. It was I think the longer tables had 15 people on each side, and there was one or two smaller tables that had about maybe 10 people on each side. And you had kitchen, bulkhead with the door that we came in, TV, bulkhead, and another bulkhead with a opening to the back way of the kitchen where the dish room and everything was. And then there was 5 tables, I believe. There was 3 or 4 of the long ones and 2 of the smaller ones. And I went to the second one to the front, facing the TV all the way up against the bulkhead. And when I went to go sit down, I sat down. I was talking to the guy that was next to me, found out that he was in the same area I was in, getting ready to go to morning muster himself. He ate his breakfast. I was watching the TV while we were talking. He finished, he got up and went to dump his tray, and I saw him out of my peripherals go all the way down. And just moments after that, I see someone else out of my peripheral coming down the aisle. Didn't think anything of it because there was an empty seat right next to me. I just figured the guy was coming to sit down and eat his breakfast. And next thing I know, arms are coming around my neck. I'm getting lifted up out of my chair, and I have a sharp pain in my neck. And I yell, and he yells something. I don't know. All I know is I screamed. And as soon as I screamed, as soon as he yelled, everyone jumped at us and was pulling him off of me, pulling us apart. He got me one more time underneath my right nipple. Just a small cut, but when they all were finally getting us apart, he gets me one last time in my abdomen from the side, on the right side. And when they pulled him off of me, it finally got me away from him. They were putting me to the ground. I hit my head on something, it felt like, and I'm pretty sure it was just I hit my head on the ground because they were rushing me to the ground. I don't blame them. I probably would have done the same thing. But all I know is I was laying there, everyone moving things around, seeing so much blood, and everyone like around me was taking their jackets off, trying to put pressure on the wound, and I hear someone yelling out, "Go get Doc! Go get Doc!" He just walked off. He just went off the ship. Run, hurry, go get him. I hear someone else's voice right next to me, telling me to stay calm, to talk, and to keep my eyes open. And I couldn't talk. I still had omelet in my mouth. I still had a piece of omelet in my mouth. And knowing that, my instincts had kicked in, and I had held the omelet to the roof of my mouth with my tongue, and trying to wiggle my arm out from, like, they were putting pressure on the wound. My arm was underneath it, and I was trying my best to wiggle my arm out from underneath, and I finally got my arm out, and I take my fingers and I scoop the omelet out of my mouth. Because I couldn't push it with my tongue. I was afraid that if I moved my head left or right or something, it was going to make the situation even worse, and I would choke on either blood or my food or something. It's just... And they all saw what I was doing, what I was trying to do, and noticed that I was trying to basically prevent myself from choking on the omelet. And next thing I know, a doc finally makes it to me. He examines the wound in my neck. He looks in, and he tells me that he got the artery. He got the artery, and he can't see it. It must have zipped up into my head. And then he tells me that he has to cut up to get it, to save my life. He tells me, I'm not gonna lie, this is gonna hurt. This is gonna hurt a lot. But I have to do it. And I need you to hold on. Then he takes a pair of surgical scissors, and he cuts from right here on my jawline, and he cuts up and finds the artery, pulls it down to my neck, and he clamps it. I had 3 metal clamps in my neck, or 3 clamps. I can't remember if they were metal or not. But I had 3 clamps in my neck that saved my life. Then he goes to examine the wound in my abdomen, and around that time the EMTs finally made it. And that was probably one of the rough parts, because getting the board into the mess hall from outside was it was a weird angle at the door, because there's a door wall, and then about 3 feet to the left of that wall, as soon as you come in, it was just wide enough for you to walk over to the left and then go into the mess hall. And it was at a weird angle. They put me on the board, they picked me up, they were taking me outside, and they had to shift and move. I felt like a couch trying to go through a weird angled doorway. They had to maneuver me so many different ways to try to get me through there. And they finally got me through. They went across. It was barge, ship, then the deck, or the pad, or the pier. They got me onto the dolly, rolled me out to the EMT. I can't remember if or who was with me along the way, but I made it all the way to the emergency room, and I was awake the entire time up until they put me under anesthesia. And I seriously thought that was going to be the last time I was going to have my eyes open. I didn't think I was going to be waking up again. And I had hoped and prayed that it was just a nightmare, that I was just asleep, and that I'd wake up, and it actually never happened. That was just a bad dream. About sometime later, they pull me slightly, just very slightly, out of anesthesia, just enough to answer some questions, write what my answers are on a, since I couldn't talk, I still had a tube in my throat. They asked me questions, I wrote down my answers, and as best as I could, obviously. And one of the last things I told them was, tell my mom I'm sorry. I told them that because the reason I chose the Navy was mainly for my mom, because she didn't want me to join the military in the first place, because she knew something bad could happen, and she didn't want that to happen at all, which I understood. And me and her husband helped convince her to let me join the military, and I chose the Navy because it was supposed to be the safer choice. It was supposed to be. And because that happened, I wasn't safe. I wanted to apologize. I felt bad. I felt guilty, even though it wasn't my fault. And they put me back under, and again, I thought it was going to be the last time I opened my eyes. The next thing I know, I'm waking up. I'm in a room. My mom's right next to me, holding my hand. and it's my mom. I did the same thing I always do. I always do this. Anytime I get hurt and my mom's there, I'll never show that I'm in pain. Never show her that. I always show her that I'm okay, even if I'm not. It's just who I was, who I am. Shortly after I came out, nurse came in. I had a tube in my ear right here to drain the blood. Doc came in with the nurse, removed the catheter. The doctor was telling me what happened and what they had to do, how many surgeries I had to go into. I went into, I believe they said 2 to 3 surgeries. The first one was the most important one. They went in and they attempted to stitch up the nerve endings and everything on in my neck to try to get function going back into my face, which it never did. It didn't work. They were hoping that it would, like, they did their best to reattach the nerves, and they were hoping that over time that they would heal themselves together. Is what he told me. And that they had to, the next surgery that they had to do was exploratory surgery, my abdomen. They had to cut straight down from my sternum down to just past my belly button, and to see how bad the damage was, if there was any damage. They told me that he was millimeters away from piercing my liver and my lung. Millimeters. And I'm still in shock through all of this. I'm still trying to process what happened and trying to figure out why. Like, why did it happen to me? Why? A couple hours later went by. I got up out of bed to go use the restroom. When I was coming out of the bathroom door, the nurse saw me and she yelled at me. Yelled at me for getting up out of the bed, saying, you shouldn't be doing that, not in your condition, not right now. And I told her I had to use the restroom. I'm sorry. And she picks up that silver pan, that metal pan, and says, "That's what this is for. Let's get you back into the bed." I apologized, went back to the bed, and passed out. The next day, they got me up out of bed, asked me to walk around, see how all my reflexes, my motor functions and everything, make sure it's all working properly. When I first came out of anesthesia, or actually woke up, when I first woke up, they were they were concerned. They didn't think I was actually going to be able to talk. They thought that my vocal cords were going to be paralyzed. Thank God they weren't. So was walking around, and they sent someone from the Navy to come pick me up and take me to the Naval Medical Base out in Portsmouth. And I was out there for a while. And while I was there, I found out that and I don't even know how, but no one contacted my parents, like, when it happened. Like, the only way that they found out was I think someone at the hospital, after they asked me how to contact my parents or who to contact or whatever, the hospital called them, and they called the Red Cross to help them get my mom out there. And the Red Cross didn't even know anything happened. Like, no one contacted them after it happened. I was at the hospital for a while. My mom was there with me, my grandma, everyone was there for a little while. A lot of my family had to go back home, obviously. My mom and my grandma stayed at the Portsmouth base on one of those Fisher houses while I was doing recovery and therapy and all that stuff. It went all right, but my mom was there, so I always, like I said, I always try to make her believe. Always try to make her believe that I was okay, that I was going to be okay. I went home about a month after for some medical leave. Can't remember how long, but while I was there, I had so many nightmares. Jumped out of bed so many times, it was hard to sleep. And I tried talking about it to my family, and like, no one wanted to talk about it. I had to, but I understand it was a lot for them. I get it. It was too much. I needed them. When I finally went back to Portsmouth, I saw a therapist a few times before getting put on medical hold, or getting put on hold at the naval base. The doctor put me on some antidepressants, and I took them. And a few weeks after I took them, I had gotten a vehicle. I was eventually sent to a Little Creek base to be put on medical hold. And because of the distance between Little Creek base, the main base, and Navy base, and, well, Norfolk Naval Base, and the distance between Little Creek and Portsmouth, where I was supposed to go do all my my medical stuff at, the distance was so great that I decided that I needed to get a vehicle. So I got a vehicle, and so I got the vehicle so I can travel to all my appointments. And when I got to Little Creek base, I went to the admin office to get checked in. The lady at the front saw the scar on my head, and looked at me and asked me what happened, why am I here, why am I put on medical hold. And I told her the story of what happened. Just a little bit. I didn't say too terribly much because it was rough. Hell, when I got put on hold or anytime after that, it was rough. It's just, I couldn't eat at any mess hall. I could hardly stay at any of the barracks around people. It was rough. I was jumpy all the time. I tried eating at a mess hall. I tried eating at the mess hall. I tried, and I tried. But every single time someone walked past me, behind me, I would jump. And I couldn't help it. And every single time I would walk out without finishing my food. It got to the point to where they opted for BAS, basically food allowance, and then eventually opted for BAH, housing allowance. And after the lady at the admin office heard my story, she told me, she looked down at the paper and she saw that they were putting me with everyone else on the base, and she told me, you're not going there, you're staying here at the admin office where I can keep an eye on you. And so she set me up in one of the cubicles in front of the command master chief's office, and I was supposed to do admin work. I was supposed to do admin work, computer work, stuff like that for the master chief. But apparently the senior chief had another idea in mind. And I was on antidepressants and on some pain meds and everything at this time, but I was still in a lot of pain. But he decided that I didn't need any of that. That he was going to put me to work, manual labor, all because I didn't have a medical chit saying any of this stuff. My medical chit was old. And anytime I tried to go get another one, or at least tried to make an appointment to go get another one, he would tell me that if I miss a day of work, that he'd write me up. So I couldn't even go to any doctor. I couldn't get the medical chit that gave him my restrictions for manual labor, for anything. The stab wound in my side is on my right hand, my right-handed side. It hurt. I'm right-handed dominant, and every movement from my right-hand side hurt so much. And he just wouldn't let me go get seen, and I couldn't do anything about it because he was number 3 in charge at the base. And eventually it got to the point while I was on my antidepressants. I was driving around at night one time. And by that time I knew the streets pretty well, because I would go out driving at night every once in a while just to release some stress. And one night while I was driving, it just hit me. It hit me. hit me hard. I was alone. I was out there by myself practically. No support from family. I couldn't talk to anyone. I couldn't even go to the doctor to talk to anyone. No one believed me. That I was in pain, that I was suffering, that just because I wasn't, my face wasn't matching the pain that I was claiming. I was, at that point, I was numb, trying to suppress it all, trying to survive. So of course you're not going to see it. But I was in a lot of pain. And I was driving, and I knew in about a quarter mile there was a guardrail, one of those V-shaped guardrails going to a circular elevated off-ramp. And I went full speed towards it. I wanted to die. I don't want to be here anymore. I was by myself. I had no one. It felt like no one cared. Not really. And that quarter mile was just, it felt like it took forever. And right before my phone went off, it was at that time I had a old phone, old phone. It was a BlackBerry Pearl, and this was before Facebook had their separate app for Messenger. I get a notification that an old childhood friend messaged me. And I saw it, and it snapped me out. And the guardrail was right there. I swerve, turn the wheel to the right, and I go up the on-ramp, trying to go around it, follow the road, but I'm practically on the guardrail the entire way up. I sat there for about a good 30 minutes after reading the message, went home. Next day, I took the car to the body shop and asked them what they could do to fix the car. And it was a weekend. It was on a Saturday morning when I went there. They called the nearest junkyard. They had a vehicle matching mine. The only problem was they didn't have a front bumper or front end. They replaced the two doors, and they had to order in from a warehouse nearby a front left fender, and the front left fender was matted black. So I didn't paint it at all, get it painted at all. I didn't have the money for it, but the two doors thankfully were the same color as the car was. And I told no one. I kept it to myself for years because I was ashamed. I was ashamed that I tried to kill myself that day. it wasn't long after that that I found out that the guy that did this to me was that they did a psych eval. They did a psych eval, and they diagnosed him as a paranoid schizophrenic. And one of many reasons. There's two main reasons, but there was a lot of different reasons that he did this to me. One of them was the reason he yelled. He yelled when he was slicing my throat. He yelled out, "You raped me. You raped me." And apparently he kept yelling that as he was doing it and getting pulled off of me. He just kept yelling that. And I've never met the guy before in my life. Another reason was apparently the voices in his head were telling him that I was put on the ship to kill him. So he felt like he had to get me first. And he bought the knife the night before just to do it. And it was a serrated knife. So after that, finding that out, they questioned me. They asked me where I was at a certain year because of his allegation of me raping him. And that time frame that he gave, I was 13. I was 13. And in nowhere near him. He grew up and lived in Texas. I was in Kansas. Middle of Kansas. Practically middle of nowhere in Kansas. And nowhere near where he was. When I heard that he was mentally ill, I mean, I was angry, obviously, and confused, and wondering why it happened. Why me? But when I found out that he was mentally ill, I knew I couldn't completely hold him accountable for it. He didn't know what he was doing. That first trial came up, and I was in the crowd when he was giving his testimony and his apology. I don't remember if he knew that I was out there or not, but he gave his apology, and sitting there looking at him, listening to him, you could tell, you could see it on his face and hear it in his voice that he was already killing himself over what happened. And I asked my lawyer if there was any way that I could talk to him. The lawyer says it's not a good idea. Not right now. I don't think you should do that. I then asked him, his family's here, right? Let me talk to his parents. He looks at me, he says, "You sure?" I said, "Yes, please, let me talk to them." So he puts me in a room. He gets his parents. They come into the room I was in. Confused, obviously, and I understand. You're the person that your son tried to kill is asking to talk to you. I asked my lawyer if I could talk to them alone. He asked me, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yes." So he walks out of the room. I asked them politely to tell me about him, how he was when he was younger, what they remember, if there was anything that would indicate that he would have done this, like, purposefully. And they tell me that he had a good childhood. There's nothing that would indicate any kind of action like this from his childhood. But that he did change after he went to college. He changed a little bit. They didn't understand why or what happened or anything. But it wasn't until after he left to be on his own. And we talked a little longer. I told them at the end, I told them to tell him that I forgave him. Because I knew that mental illness, especially that one, is a scary thing to live with and to have, and that I knew that he was already killing himself over what happened, and it would do neither one of us any good for him to know, not to know that I forgave him, that I don't hold it against him. And I still don't, to this day. I still don't hold it against him. I did find out that they had found out that he had, prior to military service, mental illness. And they also told me that he was leaving boot camp when I was going into boot camp. So he was just as fresh into the Navy as I was. And we're supposed to have all kinds of medical background checks. All of them. Before you go in. So, shortly after the trial, I was going through my own situation where the reason why I was put on medical hold, they told me, was they were trying to see if I could still continue my service. Doctor told them that it's not a good idea. The biggest reason that they gave was obviously PTSD at the time, but also the fact that my lower right eyelid cannot shut. It's paralyzed. It's completely paralyzed. I can't move this eyelid at all. And that any kind of dust, mildew, anything in any situation could actually cause me to lose my eye. So the doctors told them that I shouldn't stay in. So they decided to medically discharge me with 10% disability. That was their decision, just 10%. That's what my incident was worth, 10%. A JAG lawyer, I don't even know if this guy was actually my JAG lawyer. A JAG lawyer attached to the case comes up to me and tells me to fight for 30% disability so I can get put on the TDRL, temporary disability retirement list, so I can later, build a case to get higher disability and get put on the PDRL, permanent disability retirement list. And I was 19 at the time, naive, thinking that the government, that the military, the Navy was going to take care of me, that this is, I guess this is what I'm supposed to do, this is how the process is supposed to be like. I'm a first generation. I'm the first one in my family to go into the military. And I didn't know what to do. I was unaware of anything. And I trusted him. So I got discharged with 30% disability. Put on the TDRL. And on my exit, I get evaluated by doctors for the VA to get my VA paperwork and everything taken care of, and they put me at 50% disability through the VA. I mean, is that really all that it was worth? After what I went through? Like, seriously? I almost lost my life. And I felt like I was the only one fighting for it. I was the only one fighting for myself. Like, no one cared. So I stayed there for a little while longer. I stayed in Norfolk, Virginia for a little while longer with some friends. Like February 2009-ish, my mom asked me to come home. So I pack up my things, get in my car, and I start driving home. And I'm not even 5 minutes on the highway. I haven't even left Norfolk, Virginia. I just barely got on the highway from the on-ramp. And it had rained the night prior. And there was my car and about 10 cars in front of me. Or 10 car lengths in front of me, there was another car in the left lane. It was a 2-lane highway. And the guy, for some reason, decides that he needs to get from the left lane to the right lane as fast as possible. He goes real quick, loses control of his vehicle. He spins out, goes head first, or hood first into the guardrail. It spins around. To the side, the driver's side. He goes flat driver's side, parallel to the guardrail. Then he goes, it bounces off the rear bumper and goes right into me. I get T-boned on the highway. And so when that happens, I pull off to the side. Thankfully, it wasn't that bad of an accident. Then there was a huge shoulder on the right side. So we pull off to the side. I get out of the car. I'm in shock again. I go check on the guy to make sure he's okay. And when I go back to my car and see the damage, everything just hit me all at once. All my situation that happened to me, my attempted suicide, me feeling alone, all of it just hit me, and my consciousness, my brain just shut down. It felt like, at least, like I don't remember what happened next. I have no memory of what happened next. All I know is I went to go sit back down in my vehicle waiting for the cops to get the accident on record and everything. And after we got that part done, swapped information, I drove off, and driving off was the last thing I remember. Next thing I know, I'm waking up in a bed, not knowing who I was at first, not knowing what was going on. All I knew is when I looked around, nothing felt familiar. And there was a dog, and then there was a woman, and I jumped out of bed. I was panicking, and I didn't know what to do, where I was. I looked around, and I went to the bathroom. I was looking for the bathroom. I went to a bathroom, and I looked in the mirror, and the face that was looking back at me, it didn't look familiar at all. And things were starting, like, my memory of what happened to me before and everything just started slowly coming back. And I found a phone. Wasn't my BlackBerry. I found a phone and started looking through it. It's I can't remember which phone it was. All I know is a Samsung. And when I started looking through it, I saw pictures of me and this woman that I woke up next to. And I didn't say anything. I was just going through all that stuff. I was asking questions to my family, like subtle questions that not really giving anything away. Family, friends, all of them trying to figure out, trying to piece everything together. And when I saw the date, I saw there was 2015 was the year. End of February, beginning of March of 2015. And I was leaving and got into that car accident around February of 2009. 2009, beginning of 2009 to the beginning of 2015. 5 years of my life. And I was married to a stranger that I've never met before. With a dog that I don't remember getting. And I kept it to myself for the longest time. I still kept it to myself because I wanted to see if that's where I was meant to be. I wanted to see if that was my safe zone, my family. See, I didn't want to freak anyone out, you know. So I went about my days, my life. Things were getting good. I had started working for this company. They were doing video overlays for NASCAR drivers. The drivers themselves, not NASCAR. And still trying to piece my life together while working. But I was working from home doing this remotely. It's probably before I even knew about remote work. I mean, hell, I was out of it for 5 years. I didn't know what was going on, what the trends were, what technology was at that time frame, that period, or anything. I was trying to learn everything I could to catch up. And it was just so much. At one point, about 7 to 8 months after I came out of the whatever happened to me, she wanted to take a break. She wanted to not really take a break. She said that she wanted to figure out some things for herself. She wanted to move in with one of her friends for a little while to figure out her next step, because she just graduated from college, one of the courses she was taking. So because I was still trying to figure things out from that time frame, I agreed. I said, okay, go ahead. Let me know how it goes. So the day she finally moved in, that night she moved in with her best friend, she forgot that she left her Facebook account logged into my laptop at the time. And they actually did have a messenger. It wasn't completely separate, I believe, but it was still like it had the pop-up messages and everything that they were implementing that they didn't have before. So that night she was messaging this guy, apparently an ex-coworker, and they were talking about hooking up that night, saying she's more or less single now and she won't feel nearly as guilty as she did before. And I was upset at first, a little angry at first, but I couldn't stay angry because I knew what I had no memory of the marriage. So I felt more sorry and guilty than anything. And I called her up because I was still a little upset. I called her up and I said, hey, I want a divorce. She questioned it. She like, huh? What? She in shock. And I told her, you left your Facebook account logged into my laptop. And I saw those messages. I want a divorce and we should go our separate ways. She was silent. And I asked, how long has this been happening? How long has it been going on? She said it's been going on and off for 3.5 years. And we were legally married for 5. But again, I had no memory of it. So I just wanted to go our separate ways. And like I said, I felt guilty because I had no memory. I had nothing. There's really no real connection except for those 8 months that I thought things were going good. I thought I was finally like building that connection with her. But when that happened, the cheating, I just felt like it was a way for us to have a clean break. But I also felt bad that she practically wasted so much time on someone that was actually there. And after that, it's just, we got the divorce. She wanted to, she asked me, can we start over as friends? And I said, okay, I don't mind that, as long as you're not trying to pursue it again as a relationship. Because I told her what happened and how bad I felt, and I don't want to put her through anything like that again. And even to this day, I'm still scared that might happen again. I don't pursue many women. I don't try to pursue women at all, really. I try to keep to myself because of that. I don't want to put someone in that situation again, where my condition, what happened to me, my mind, everything just goes, no memory, no nothing, and no one knows that that's going on. I don't want to put anyone through that again. And it hurts. And I finally told my family what happened, and that I have no memory of any of that. And apparently my mom's husband was just playing along. He tells me, after trying one more time to talk to my mom and her walking away from me, like almost immediately when I tried bringing it up, telling me she doesn't want to talk about it. He walks into the room, asks me what did you do to upset your mother this time? What did you do to upset your mother this time? And I tell him. And that's when he asked me that, I knew I kept trying. I had to have. I mean, that's the only reason why he would ask me that. So I tell him why my mom was upset. So I tell him why my mom was upset. I told him I tried talking to her about what happened, to include her on what's going on in my life right now. And he yells at me. He calls me a piece of shit son for bringing it back up and upsetting my mom with it. Then proceeds to list everything my mom went through when that happened to me. Telling me we don't need to talk about it. We were there. Saying, if you need to talk about it, go talk to a professional or someone else. Don't bring that shit around here. That happened to you years ago. Get over it. We didn't raise you to be so weak. And the last thing that he told me I see all these veterans out here. Most of them actually went overseas and seen actual combat. Some missing limbs and whatnot. And they're just fine. What's your problem? And after I heard that, I knew he'd never change. He never did change. The job that I had at that time was a seasonal job, only during the NASCAR season. So during the off season, they told me that I could do one of two things. I could either find another seasonal job until the NASCAR season starts back up, or I could file for unemployment. So I filed for unemployment, so I can gather more information about what happened during the 5 years that I have no memory of. So, and also so I can deal with my divorce and see about fixing things with my family and fixing things in my own life. So I start going to the gym. And I went to the gym almost every day for a month and a half. And I lost about 50 pounds in that month and a half. I went to the gym and I ate right. Tried to fix everything. Tried to make a plan. Try to catch up on all that I missed. When work was starting back up, the NASCAR gig was starting back up, they didn't call me, they didn't inform me that they were getting ready to come back on, like start working again. Instead, I called them. They told me they thought I quit because I filed for unemployment, even though it was their idea for me to file for unemployment in the first place. And they told me that they don't need me, so I had to look for another job. So I started working for another job at home. Couldn't really afford living at the place that I was living at. And at the same time, I wanted to pursue going back to school. So I made a plan to go back to school for a field called forensic psychology. And at the time, there was only 3 places that even remotely had the courses to get that degree. They were Chicago, San Diego, and Oklahoma City. And Chicago and San Diego's cost of living is way above what I wanted to go with. So I decided to go with Oklahoma City. My mom's husband would get it in his head for some reason that I was going there for someone else. Because the person that sent me the message that prevented me from committing suicide that one time lived there. I told them why I was going down there. I told them why I was actually going down there, but he's stubborn. He had it in his head that I was going down there for her, no other reason. No, it was nothing else. It had nothing to do with wanting to stay close to home or having a lower cost of living. No, not even close. Not too long prior to that, around the time I was going to the gym, and the 22 push-up challenge was getting big around that time as well, I finally had the courage to make a video of the 22 push-up challenge, because I was challenged. So I made a video with a lot of the people at the gym that I was going to. And in the video, the guy that was filming it did a small interview with me, because I told him that this 22 push-up challenge hits close to home for me because I tried to kill myself once before. And so he interviewed me. In the interview, I did I said a little bit about it and what brought me out of it. And I thanked the person that sent me the message. And then I also thanked the people that were there for me, that was there for me emotionally, to support me, help support my recovery, basically. And in the video, I didn't thank my parents. I didn't thank them, and they weren't included in the video. And I did it for a reason. And when they saw the video, they got a hold of me. They told me that I made them look like bad parents. Because it was the first time I ever brought my attempted suicide up. They told me I made them look like bad parents. And he told me that he doesn't believe me, that he doesn't believe that I tried to kill myself. That I'm just saying it now because of the whole 20 push-up challenge thing. And I'm just looking for attention. And that attitude that he had towards it. And he wonders why I tried to kill myself before. Telling me that, and then saying that what they did for me was what I needed, not what, just because I didn't do what they wanted me to do doesn't mean that they didn't do what I needed them to do, which was what they felt like I needed was things. They gave me things. Food, money, things. But they would never talk or listen. I didn't ever ask for any of that stuff. And anytime that I would get anything, he would complain. He would complain about it, and he'd make us, me especially, feel guilty that I'm taking this stuff from them, because they earned that, they paid for it, which yeah, you guys paid for it, but I didn't ask for a lot of that stuff, and I don't remember asking for anything in between that 5-year period that you don't believe that I ever had, that I have no memory of. They never believed me about anything. Like, I didn't have any kind of trauma in my head. I didn't have someone stab me in my abdomen. There's no pain there. There's nothing wrong with me. That's what he would always say. There's nothing wrong with you. You weren't like that before. There's nothing wrong with you. Calling me ungrateful for the things that they gave me. I was grateful, very grateful that they were able to help me out with that kind of stuff, but it's not what I needed. It's what they wanted to give. It's the only way that they felt like they could help, because they didn't want to listen. Always telling me that the only reason I tell people my story or what happened to me is because I'm looking for some kind of pity party. Pity party. What if I had a seizure in front of people? If I had a flashback? What if I black out because of my migraines and everything else, and people don't know what's going on? And that's why I tell people. It's the biggest reason why I tell people. If something like that does happen, he should know. So I was trying to set up to go to school in Oklahoma City. I had everything planned out. I had everything ready. But I felt like the negativity from my family at that point just made things worse. Because they never understood why I was trying to go out there, why I was trying to make my life better for myself. And I had no savings. I had nothing. I was going out there starting from scratch, or at least trying to. I was trying to get help from this third-party veteran assistance program that said that they'd help me. They agreed to help me up until 3 days prior to my move to actually get into the place. And they withdraw their assistance because even though I told them I have a job lined up, I have a job, I just need to get there, get the internet hooked up, and I have a job. I have a job working from home. I have a job. I just need to get out there and start it all up. And I'm going to be going to school there too. I have it all lined up. But because I didn't have a job this moment, even though I did have the job, I was still working for this company. I was working for U-Haul, doing phone sales, and I was going to do that there. I just needed to get down there and get the internet and everything else set up. They were supposed to pay the first month's rent, the security deposit, which was also just as much as the first month's rent, and I was supposed to pay last month's rent and the pet deposit, and I had the money for it, but this company backed out last minute. And so I had to move in with my parents because I couldn't move into the place yet because I didn't have the money for it. But it was still on hold for me for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. They put it on hold for me for 2 weeks. And I moved in with my parents. I started working at my old job that I worked out in high school. And it was painful. Like, I worked through the pain as much as possible. I worked there, and as soon as I'd get off work, I would go to the local bars, ask if, gave them my phone number, asked them to give me a call if they ever have anyone that might be too drunk to drive home. Give me a call, I'll have them pay you, and I'll drop them off, and I'll come back and get the money later. So basically, I was basically trying to be an Uber driver before I even knew what Uber was. But without even asking what I was doing, my mom's husband would just assume that I was out fucking around with friends, doing nothing, and abandoning my dog that they agreed to watch while I went and made money for my move. I sold him my pistol and my long arm, and he gave them back to me, and I sold them, but he let me keep the money as a loan, and I sold those back out to the local gun shop, and I didn't get too much money from them. I really didn't. Definitely not enough for first month's rent, security deposit, last month's rent, and a pet deposit. So I kept working, and I worked my ass off. And whenever I got home, back to my parents' place, I would sleep for one as much as I could, and when I wasn't asleep, I was just sitting there. The TV was on, and I was zoned out, trying to recover, trying to plan my next move. And he thought I was just being lazy, without even asking me anything, not even talking to me. He was just assuming that I was being lazy. I wasn't doing anything. I finally made it out to Oklahoma City, but I didn't have enough for my pet deposit still. But I had enough for my security deposit, first month's rent, last month's rent. I had enough for all that. Just not enough for the security deposit, or pet deposit. So I asked, once again, I asked my parents if they could watch my dog, so I can get everything set up out there and make the money that I needed to make for the pet deposit. while I was getting everything else set up. They said, yeah, we'll watch them. But every single day, practically every single day that I was out there, my mom's husband will send a picture of my dog looking out the door. With a message saying, look what you're doing to him. You abandoned him. Almost every single day. And basically guilt tripped me for what I was doing. So I would travel from Oklahoma City back home, which was about 4 hours either way. 4.5 hours. And I had a new vehicle at the time. I had traded in the car that I almost killed myself in, because that car had no AC anymore. Like, the AC just stopped working, and it was going to cost a lot to repair it, which, again, I didn't have the money for it. And I had a bulldog. My bulldog would have overheated in the car. So I needed to get a new vehicle. So I got a new vehicle, got a lease on it. And that was around the time that I got the bad news about the third-party veteran program backing out from helping me. So it was a rough time trying to figure everything out. So when I asked them to watch my dog, and then him doing that, practically making me spend money to go up, down there, go back home to visit almost once a week. Like I said, that was like 4 hours either way. I spent about $40 on gas getting there and $40 on gas getting back. That was $80, so almost a week I was spending on that. And that $80 could have been used and set aside for my pet deposit. And it was somewhere between $200 to $300 pet deposit, like $300, I believe. And one of those times that I went down to visit, my mom pulls me aside, tells me that her husband asked her to bring this up to me, to ask me for my dog in exchange for the money that he loaned me for me to get my place out there in Oklahoma City. My dog. He couldn't ask me himself. He asked my mom to ask. And he knows I can't say no to my mom. Especially with as many times as he has guilt-tripped me over bringing back what happened to me up and upsetting her with it. So fucking manipulative. So I agree, because I can't say no to my mom. But at that moment, I knew he won. He got my mom, because for the longest time he would always tell my mom, because my mom and I were close. She had me when she was 14. We practically grew up together, and we were close. We were very close. You need to stop treating him that way. That's not how a mother and a son should be. Yeah, you guys shouldn't have that kind of relationship. Like, he would always say stuff like that. Like he knew what a relationship between a mother and a son should be. And everybody's relationship with their parents is different. he got my mom, and now he's got my dog. And I decided to put my life on hold. After fighting so hard to get that place in Oklahoma City, I decided to put my life on hold. And there was a friend that lived in my hometown that was having problems. And she was a new friend. I never knew her from before. But she was having problems, so I decided to help her out. Babysit her kids, help her get through some tough situations in exchange for staying at her house, because I couldn't stay with him anymore. I could not stand being anywhere near him. And the only person that I wanted to try and fix my relationship with was my mom. So I stayed with my friend, helped her out with her kids, and visited with my mom every chance that I could to try and fix things, try to get my relationship with my mother back. And it just never worked out. Things just got worse. Something happened with my friend's kids, and I was blamed for it. And my parents questioned me about it. Made things even worse. So I tried one more time to talk to them about everything, and they shut me out. They stopped me, told me that they don't want anything negative going on in their lives, and told me about a heart attack that my mom's husband had, and that they're trying to not raise his blood pressure up to trigger another heart attack. And the only thing that popped into my head when I heard about the heart attack was that not once did he ever attempt to tiptoe around me to not trigger anything. And I'm pretty sure that I had, and still do have, more triggers than he does. I'm pretty sure I do. But I'm the negative one. So I moved away, got away from all that stuff. Was homeless for a little while, which I was fine with being homeless. I was completely fine. I was trying to get my life back together. I was talking to some friends who were also having some financial issues because they were going through some custody battles and stuff like that, issues. So I moved up with them in Wyoming and stayed with them for a while, had some issues up there, moved out because I was having more medical issues. There were smokers. I was in and out of the ER more times than I could count, but I never let them know. Because I felt like I already felt like a burden to people because of everything that's happened to me, and I didn't want to burden them anymore. You know, I always felt like I had to deal with with everything that happens to me by myself. Everything. And I even had a couple seizures in front of them, and a couple blackouts in front of them. But some stuff happened. I moved back here to Kansas City to try and restart my life again from scratch, from nothing. trying to go to school for culinary at this one school. While I was here, I met my roommates, my current roommates, great people, prior veterans. So it made it a lot easier to live here, because they understood a lot more than most people do. But in the middle of the term, the middle of my second term at the school shut down out of nowhere. And I was losing control of my life again. I was starting to go into school. I went to work at a restaurant. I felt great. I felt like I was getting my life back together. And then the school shut down, and I was losing control again. But I was still working. So I still had that. I tried to stay positive, but again, I was losing control because the school shut down. I was still told I had to be responsible for the student loans until they cancel them because of the school shutting down. And then they also tell me that the credits that I had earned during going to that school cannot be transferred because it was a trade school. So they couldn't be transferred to any of the local culinary schools. So again, I had to try and start over from scratch. And my pain was getting worse. The place I was working at, I was having pain issues, and I had a couple blackouts that made me have no call, no shows. And I tried to, they asked me to go on medical leave of absence or something. And I told them what was going on. I told them this stuff could happen from the beginning. And they told me that I need to get, again, just like back at Little Creek Base, I need to get medical records. They told me I need to get medical records and a medical note from the doctor saying that this stuff happens, saying that that this is going on, so they can excuse me and excuse the time that I missed for work. And so I tried to make an appointment with the VA, but my primary care, any appointment with the VA that I tried to make was always like over 3 weeks out. It was the earliest that they could see me. Over 3 weeks. And it was taking too long for my job. And so they let me go. And it's always been like that. Anytime I try to work, I'd work myself too hard to where my pain sets in a little too much. I'd either have flashbacks that turn into seizures, or my glasses or any headgear that I have to wear for work will cause pressure on my temple right here. It's right here. Fucking pressure on my temple will cause headaches, migraines, and blackouts. And no one would ever believe me. Not the VA, not my parents, not my jobs. So I just stopped complaining about it. I mean, what's the point of telling people that this stuff happens to me if they don't believe me? What's the point? You know? So I got fired, basically. I went into unemployment for a little while I was looking for another job. and I had a new vehicle that I had to keep up on my payments. And I decided to give Uber a shot. I signed up for Uber just to give it a shot, see what I can do with it. Got my background check, got into Uber. First week, I worked almost every single day. It was great. I loved it. I still do. And I finally, in 2019, I finally found a job that I could actually do, working for myself, not having to report to anyone when I needed to take a break. I could clock in, clock out when I needed to. If I felt like I was about to have an episode, like a seizure or something, because I could always feel when something like that's going to happen. I could always tell. And so if I ever feel like I'm about to, I could always just pull off to the side, stop the car, work through it, and then either get back to work or go home. Then COVID hit, and I couldn't work. And then I was also told that I can't file for unemployment because I was a 1099, and we don't pay into unemployment. And I couldn't even go back to work when everything started to open up again, because that was also the year I needed to update my tags and titles and everything so I can continue having my car for work, so I continue doing all that. And I had the money for it too before COVID. Then COVID hit, and they told us to stock up and hunker down. We're going to be here for a while. So I used the money to stock up, and I also used the money that I had saved up to pay the bills up to a certain point until I ran out of money. And they said that they'll send money to help. They'll send money to help. But it was never enough to catch up and keep up with the bills. And by the time I found out about the PUA, it was already too late. It was here, and they told me that they ran out of funds. And then I also found out about a program that my county was going to allow me to go ahead and update all my tags, titles, everything, and make payments over time. So I called the bank that had the lien on my car, told them about that, and told them that I'm going to be going back to work as long as I can keep the vehicle. And I asked them if they can extend the loan one more time. They told me, we can't do anything else for you. We already put a repossession out on your vehicle. So beginning of 2020, or 2021, beginning of 2021, they repossessed my vehicle. And again, losing control of my life. And I went even further in my shell. I was feeling great in 2019. I even made friends doing this job. I met two amazing people that practically took me in. And then I also met two amazing women doing this job that invited me to their wedding. And finally, I didn't feel like a burden anymore. I felt like I was finally making friends and finally getting my life back under control. And then COVID hit and I went back into my shell and I lost contact with them. My fault. And when I heard that I was going to be able to go back to work, I tried having a little bit more hope, and then finding out that my car is going to get repossessed, and losing hope again, losing control of my life again. And I went even further in my shell. And back in October of last year, they snapped me out. One friend from Corpus Christi that I met, that I had from, because I was a gamer. Games was really the only thing that that actually helped me through everything. One of the biggest factors that helped me through. People I've met online, everything. They all helped me. But as much as I love all my friends online, I love them. They help me so much, but I needed physical friends too. One of the friends that I met online, actually in 2019, I flew out to Corpus and we hung out. We went to a convention out there. Got to meet Aquaman. Visited some family while I was there. And then about a month later, another friend that I met online, I went to visit him. He lives out in Hawaii. It's one of the greatest times I've had, even though I burnt the shit out of my shoulders. We went cage-free shark diving. It was great out there. I liked it. Like I said, I felt like I was finally getting my life back together. Finally living again. And then COVID hit. And those two ladies and my friend in Corpus snapped me out of my shell. I've been trying to make it up to them ever since. For losing contact. For even though I know that they'd say, and they did say, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. It matters to me because I didn't mean to. But when they snapped me out, I finally decided once again that I need to get myself out of this. I need to get my life straight. I need to make another plan and work even harder than before. Way harder. So I made a plan, started going back to the VA, and being more aggressive in the help that I need. One time I had to take an Uber to visit someone that was gonna help me out with the VA stuff to increase my disability and get the help that I need. And the Uber driver tells me, because we talked, I told him that I used to Uber as well, but my car got repossessed. He told me about a rental program that Uber has. So as soon as I heard about that, I looked into it a little more, and I went to work. I started doing my research. I started making a plan. I did everything I could. I even signed back up for Uber to get the background check process starting again. As soon as that came back, I was able to rent a vehicle, or at least get it in line, because there was a long waiting list to get the rental. And I made a plan, and I'm still executing the plan as much as I can, and I haven't really strayed from it, and I am working my ass off. The plan is to use this rental as long as I possibly can, to put as much money aside as I possibly can, to continue paying the rental, obviously, making sure I have enough money to pay the rental, but also putting money aside to buy a new vehicle right out, because I am not going to get, I can't even, I tried already, I'm not going to get another loan on a car, so I'm going to buy a new vehicle right out, so I don't have to worry about it getting repossessed again. That's my plan. And after I get the vehicle, because this rental I have to pay $360 a week for. So after I get the vehicle, I told myself that the money, I'm still going to try and work as much as possible. The money that I would normally typically pay the $360 a week for this rental, I'm going to be putting a lot of it aside to fix my credit. But at the same time, I'm also wanting to go back to school, potentially. That's one of the like 3 paths that I'm wanting to go down. I have 3 paths. I know I should probably focus on just one, but the one path that I want to go down is I want to go back to school, try again at that forensic psychology degree. The other path is being a private chef, personal chef, doing small parties or house events or something like that. And the other one is just sticking it out with Uber, because I make good money doing this. Just stick it out with Uber. Try and make a life for myself. Even though I'm scared shitless to do it. I just want my life back, you know? As long as I'm not asking, or I'm not saying I for no struggle. I already know life is going to be a struggle. It has been. I'm just tired of doing it alone. Tired of feeling like I have to be in this struggle by myself with no one. I mean, I've always been the kind of person that if I see someone else struggling, I will always jump in first. No questions asked. I don't even care if they appreciate it or not, or I just do things because it's the right thing to do. And one of the biggest reasons why is because I don't know if when I'm gonna lose my memory again, or if I'm gonna get overstressed and have that 5-year memory gap or anything similar to that happen again. I don't. If there's anything that I've learned, it's this. You really don't know when your last day is going to be. I could have died 15 years ago on that day. And I'll be damned if I leave this place without making the people around me happy. Without them remembering that I tried my best to be there for them. No matter how bad it got for me, I was always there for them. I'll be damned. So I cherish everybody that comes into my life. Everybody. I'll always cherish them. Even if we hardly know each other, I'll always check on them. Even if there's no response. Even if they feel like it might be a little overwhelming. I can't help it. I care too much about people. Because you never know. You never know. Anything can happen at any time. And you might not have that chance again to tell them hello, or to ask them how they're doing, or tell them that you care. You never know. I've lost some good people along the way. And I know it could happen at any time. So, cherish the people that are in your life. New or old, always cherish them. And treat people with kindness. Because you want them to remember you for who you were. And you want that message to be positive. You don't want them to look down on you or talk bad about you or anything. Because you never know. That's my story for now. It's still going. It's still going. And I'm still going. And if anyone needs to talk, anyone, I am here. Just reach out. It's okay to not be okay. But it's not okay to fight on your own.